Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're in the Ladies' Lounge today, and Viv and I have been, looking at it's the end of November. We are really heading into the silly season or the Christmas season, and wondering how it's all going in your world. So, one of the things that we have been asking questions about leading up to Christmas is, what gift can we be for all of you guys in the Ladies Lounge? And we have come up with a couple of little things that we're very excited about. So we wanted to jump on and tell you a little bit about that, but also just have a look at this idea of gifting and receiving. So it looks like I've lost Viv, but hopefully she will join me again. I've got my little Ladies' Lounge crown on. But one of the things that, is obviously a big part of Christmas is gifts. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of the simultaneity of gifting and receiving, because in truth, you can't have gifting without receiving, and you can't have receiving without gifting. So there is this simultaneity of gifting and receiving, and they really go hand in hand. And so, for how many of you guys is the gifting side easier than the receiving side? And for how many of you is the receiving side easier than the gifting side? And what if they're not sides at all? So one of the things that we do talk a lot about with the tools of access consciousness, when we're looking at engaging with other people, being in relationships with other people, having other people in our lives in all sorts of different ways, is this idea of receiving, and how for a lot of us receiving is like this. I'm not very good at receiving. I don't have a really good time with receiving. It's like, have you ever had that situation in your world where someone has seen part of the brilliance of you or seen the beauty of you and wanted to acknowledge you for that, and you've kind of shrunk or gone, or, not felt very comfortable in that space of receiving the acknowledgement of how wonderful you are. So, one of the things that we talk about, that I've spoken about in classes a lot too, is, when this idea of, or this conversation of the difficulty a lot of people have around receiving. I've got Viv back, so let me see if I can just add her. Hello.
Hello, I'm walking around the house trying to find a good internet spot. Maybe that's better.
Well, you seem better now. We've got someone saying gifting is easier than receiving. Yeah, thank you. And I think that is the case for a lot of people, where it's like, how lovely is it to be able to give someone a gift or acknowledge someone for some wonderful thing that they are being, or just that they look beautiful today or anything like that. And it's like, have you ever been that person who has tried to give someone a gift like that and they have rejected it or not fully received it, versus when you give someone a gift and they fully receive it? It's like, how much greater is what you're able to gift when someone is willing and able to fully receive. So
yeah, and that whole, if you had to gauge how much you're great at gifting and how much you are with receiving, what would it look like? Is it this much to this much? And I love one of these examples that I give when I talk about this. It's like when you meet somebody and you give a hug, and they're kind of a bit stiff and rigid and they can't wait to get away from you. And there are other times when you hug somebody and you kind of, your worlds melt together. You contribute to each other. There's just this, like you say, Tiff, that simultaneity of the gifting and receiving. There's no separation between the people, the beings, the energy. And it's this yummy, melting, kind of nurturing, nourishing, reaching energy that, if we allow it, can change so much in our world. And yeah, I definitely can relate to overgiving in order to stop receiving or control receiving from certain people. You know, there are sometimes certain people that you're really willing to receive from, and other times it's like, you know, you just kind of, you feel that resistance, or you're almost distancing yourself and pushing yourself away and putting a barrier up because it makes you uncomfortable, or you're aware of them getting uncomfortable too. And so it creates this real weirdness between that, just that art of gifting and receiving, where there's no scorecard, there's no, you know, you owe me or I owe you. It's just this beautiful generosity where there is no, like I say, there's none of that weird energy going on that interrupts that beautiful flow.
Yeah, and for how many of us do we grow up learning that it's more about this idea of give and take? You know, it's like, I give you something, and then because I've given you something, then you have to give me something in return, or you owe me something, or like you say, Viv, that scorecard kind of, you know, idea, which oftentimes is not even spoken either.
Mm-hmm.
It's this energetic kind of thing where people go, well, I gave you this, so I'm not going to say anything, but somewhere in my world, I expect something from you in return. I'm not even going to tell you what it is or say that it's anything, but there is even sometimes this energetic scorecard, which makes things even trickier because people aren't even willing to kind of be clear about what it is that they would like. So what if there is something way greater available? And, you know, it's like, what receiving, you know, it's like, depending on which one for you, because I also have that thing in my world where gifting is not that easy for me. And, you know, I look at that and go, okay, so in my life, I've definitely, you know, when I was younger, been very generous with lots of different things. And I think when we are that and we've been that and that has not been received, then we start to cut off also also our willingness to gift from that space of, you know, just a real generosity of spirit. And there's more as well, you know, like, you know, I'm talking about this, and there's so much that we would like to kind of play with a little more, because it's also about the willingness to be aware of what people can receive.
Yeah, there's so many directions and levels and depths with this, because we also talk about receiving us, you know, because that's something that, what do you mean receiving us or receiving me? It's like, what are you talking about? But when we have that part that we're holding back, you know, somebody's told you off for being too much, or you're being too happy, or whatever it is, when somebody's judged you for being something that you are naturally, like you say, Tiff, we learn to kind of cut that off, or we turn it down, or we withhold it and protect it. But that, the only person that really hurts is us, because we then stop being able to receive that from us, gift it to others, and also receive it from somebody else if they're being it as well. So, you know, what if we could discover the gift that we are by having that level of receiving totally different parts of us, and receiving the kindness, the gratitude, the generosity, the potency, the power, you know, and any other point that we've taken about ourselves, that, you know, if somebody judged you for being mean or being too successful or having too much money, we then start to cut those off, because we have that weird energy that makes us shut down and stop receiving. So, you know, we're going into this 24 days of gifting and receiving, and it's both Tiff and I really desire to help iron out any of those crinkly areas of your world where you start to get reactive, or you put the automatic shutters down to receiving, you keep people at arm's length. And then what happens is we complain that we're not receiving what we really want, but we've actually created that. And often we don't even know what it is that we've got in place that's stopping that receiving. So, you know, if any of you are watching you know, you don't know how to ask for what you want. You don't know what you want. And then when you do get it, you don't know how to receive it. It's like there is so much that we would love to explore and open up and contribute to your worlds. And I think, you know, the Christmas season is very typically, you know, the expectations and the obligations. And like you said, Tiff, this scorecard, well, I spent $50 on you and you only spent $10 on me. It's like we totally miss the act of that generosity and the receiving. Even if it is something that you don't want, can you still be generous with your ability to receive? So there's so much
Yeah,
that goes way beyond.
there is. There is. And I love, you know, saying your, what did you just say? Your ability to, oh, you just said something brilliant and I lost it. You said something about your ability to receive when you were talking about someone gifting you with something that you don't necessarily want. Do you remember what you said?
Just it's like a generosity to receive the gift, even if you don't like it,
Mm,
you don't want it.
yeah,
The
yeah,
graciousness that's behind that,
yes, yes.
you know.
And so much of this is to do with energy and the energy that goes with this stuff.
Mm,
So, you know, for me personally, that's kind of largely where my world sits is in the energetics of everything. Because with everything, before the words and before the action, there is energy. And oftentimes the energy is so much bigger than we have the words or the actions to define it. You know, so it's like, what energy of gifting and receiving are you truly that
mm,
you have been cutting off or making smaller, that we can invite and facilitate you in opening up more to?
mm,
And that's really, you know, for Viv and I, that's really what we desire is, you know, for everyone to have more, to be able to be more of all of the things that bring you joy. And we sort of thought, well, what better time than the Christmas period, which is largely about this idea of gifting and receiving. So someone said in the chat, what can we do to increase our level of receiving? And that's a great question. I mean, even that question will start to open the door to more of
mm,
that for you. But, you know, another thing that you can play with is, you know, if you're in a situation where something is being gifted to you, um, however that is, when you feel those energetic places come up in you where you're like, oh, uncomfortable, or you feel like you're trying to back away, or, you know, you're really not just being willing to really open and receive, one of the best things to do is really get a sense of where those barriers are and push down those barriers.
mm,
Start to melt those barriers and really be present with what's going on. Breathe, like take a couple of deep breaths and really just kind of melt those barriers and kind of practice receiving. Because for a lot of us, it is something that has been almost like taught out of us. Because the
mm,
reality is the simultaneity of gifting and receiving is you. You know, so if you are having trouble being that, then you're not being all of you.
mm. Yeah, and you know, another thing that they could explore too is what is receiving for me? Because there is no definition of what receiving is. It's like this is our invitation to you to explore, well, what is receiving? What is receiving for me? You know, because when you look around you, there's very few people that actually know how to receive, or they'll receive from certain people and only a certain amount. And that limits so much within their world and their life and their level of joy and what they're willing to have in their world. So ask that question, what is receiving for me?
Hmm.
And
And the
know that
thing is,
as you ask that question, whatever it is you're not willing to receive will make itself known to you. And even what Tiff was just talking about, you know, whenever you ask a question, the awareness, the energy will show up almost immediately in your world. So if you find yourself resisting a certain person or a situation, oh, there it is. I've asked for this. Oh, okay, there, I'm not receiving there, rather than going into that automatic pilot. So this is very much about, stopping the automatic pilot and allowing you to be present with the energies of what receiving is for you and for your body.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we would like to invite you. We have a couple of things coming up around this topic on Monday, the 29th of November. So in about 48 hours from now, no, more than that, isn't it? 72, 48, no, 48-ish hours. We have a free Zoom and it's called Shit. It's here. Your companion for a greater one this year. So it's just some pragmatic tools to help you through a lot of the difficulties that a lot of people find come up for them around Christmas. And that's going to kind of be the opening into our 24 days of gifting and receiving, which will be a whole bunch of different cool things, including we'll have some guests, we'll have some gifts, and we'll have 24 days of really exploring this topic. And that will happen in the Ladies Lounge Facebook group. So come join us.
And it's a gift from us to you.
It is. It is. So what if this gift is one of the things that you could start to play with in receiving, and how much more can you receive than you ever thought or knew was possible to receive before?
And how can that actually flow into the rest of your life and allow you to receive, the joy, the gift, the happiness, whatever it is that you'd like to have more of? If it's not showing up, what if you'd be willing to flex your receiving muscle? Come and join us.
Yay.
Thanks,
cool, guys.
Tiffy.
Well, thanks for being here, and we hope you guys come and play, and we shall see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.